the Hot Wheel Vapester coming at you. So grab a vape and keep it cloudy.
What's going on, guys? You are back with the Hot Wheel Vapester. And first and foremost, I would like to say that I hope everybody that rocks with me had an awesome Thanksgiving. I know we certainly did. We had a lot of food, and we still have a lot of food in our refrigerator. I don't think we're going to have to worry about food for the next week.
Nobody ever said there was anything wrong with leftovers.
Amen to that, babe. But today, I want to bring you a different type of video than what I normally do. And this video is going to kick off what I hope is going to be a long-running series. I'm going to go into the differences between high-end and low-end products. Now, in this series, I'm going to cover tanks, and I'm putting RTAs in that category with tanks. I'm going to go over tanks. I'm going to go over RDAs. I'm going to go over mods. And I'm going to go over juices. With that being said, also in this series, I'm going to go over a few things that are in the high-end section just based on their price point, and really shouldn't be in the high-end section on quality. On the reverse side of that, I'm going to go into some things that are on the low-end section based on their price point, but should really be based on quality in the high-end section, at least in my opinion. You know, you can all take my opinion with a grain of salt. You know, you can let it go in one ear and out the other, or you can burn some gray matter on it. It's entirely up to you. And I want to start this series off with tanks. But to do that, I feel it's important that you understand the difference between an RTA like this and a pre-built tank like this. Now, RTA stands for Rebuildable Tank Atomizer. Now, the difference between that and this, is this has the coils and cotton in one little piece, where you have to install your own coils and your own cotton in this. Now, today, unlike several years ago, you can buy pre-wound coils and install in these. So it is a little bit easier than it was when I first started vaping. Because when I first started vaping, you know, when RTAs and RDAs like that, well, actually, RDAs were the first to come out. You had to wind your own coils with your own wire. You know, there were no pre-wound coils. So it was a little bit harder back then than it is today. But, you know, you still have to install your own coils, put in your own cotton and all of that. Whereas this, it's all in one nice little neat package. All you have to do is unscrew it and, you know, pop in a new one. And I'm not saying that that doesn't have its place. It really, really does. I mean, there are times that I would much rather use a tank like this rather than this. But this has much better flavor and, in my opinion, lasts a lot longer. Because with this, as long as you take care of your coils properly that you've installed in here, the only thing that you are going to have to change on a consistent basis is cotton. You can literally have a set of coils last a year. You want to know how I know this? Because I've done it. And I will be honest, you know, maintenance is not something that I am very diligent about. I don't clean my coils as often as I should. I will be the first to tell you that I am very, very lazy about that. But I have still had, even with that being said, I have still had a set of coils last me a month. Now, with that being said, let's try to get into the low end and high end of it all. And I'm going to start off by saying, I'm going to say a lot about this tank, but I am in no means sponsored in any way by Skatua LLC. You know, I just happen to love Scott Carson's product and workmanship. Because this, for me, is the best tank in the vaping industry. Now, let me start off by telling you about this tank. For those of you that don't know, this is literally called the tank. This is the version 3. It is a 4-post design. Bottom airflow. Top fill. All hand machined in the United States. This is a high-end tank. both in quality and price point. This tank, all day long, its regular retail price is $250. This tank is so well designed and so well made that even used, and yes, I am not ashamed to tell you, that used, I paid $250 for this tank. This tank is the only tank in the industry that I have seen that fully retains its full RRP, if not more. I have seen version 1s of this tank that started out at $250 and later end up selling online for upwards of $1,000 or more. Now there's been some changes, at least in the Skatua group, that prevent that. But I have seen this sell online for $1,000 or more. Why? Because it's a good tank. It's a solid tank. This tank right here, all day, $65 all day long at your local brick and mortar store. You can probably find it for $30 online. However, I've never seen one of these sell used. Unless somebody buys it as a kit and they sold the mod and the tank with it. Never once have I seen one of these sell used. And for those of you that don't know what this is the TFV12 Prince. However, I call it the TFV Prince because it is in no way a smaller version of the TFV12. I've said this in videos before. In my opinion, it is completely different from the TFV12. And in my opinion, this is the best tank on the low-end spectrum. I use this tank all the time. However, there is a fundamental problem with this tank that puts it on the low-end spectrum, at least in my opinion. And in my opinion, this tank, at the end of the day, will end up costing you more money than this tank will. For 3 coils for this tank, I pay $33. 3 coils only lasts me a month. Or no, excuse me. 3 coils only lasts me 3 months. And that depends on the juice that I use. Sometimes it's even less. This tank definitely has its purposes if you're in a hurry. Because, I mean, this tank, all you have to do, push a button, your fill port's open. This, you gotta unscrew the top cap, set the top cap down, fill it, rescrew it, close your juice bottle. You know, not a lot of on-the-go filling with this. But the advantage to this tank is it's a 10 milliliter tank. Yeah, if you're gone all day, you might have to fill it once or twice. And that's no big deal. You can set down, fill it up, and you're good to go. Whereas this tank is only a 4 mil capacity. You know, I myself have had to fill this tank up, 4 or 5 times in a single day. At least 2 or 3 of those times I've been on the go. And like I said, because of where I'm at, I paid $33 for 3 coils. Yes, those 3 coils last me 3 months. But like I said, if you take care of this tank, the coils in this tank will last you a year. And at best, you're only going to have to change your cotton once a month, maybe twice a month, depending on the juice you run. And you're never, ever going to have to do that on the go. You might end up having to change your coils on the go with this tank, depending on how you vape. Yes, you do have to have a little bit more of a learning curve with this tank. With this tank, you do have to at least know the basics of Ohm's law. But in my opinion, it's better to have one tank V3 by Skatua than it is to have 5 or 6 of these. Do I like this tank? This is the best tank in this category. I love this tank. Which tank do I use more often, however? This one right here. It has much better flavor. Much better capacity. And yes, I'm not made of money. It took me a long time and a very good friend to put this tank in my hands. But I am here to tell you that it is the most valuable piece in my collection. I think it is better to have one of these than a dozen tanks just like this one. But that again is all in my opinion. They make other high-end RTAs because this one is very complicated to get a hold of. You are not going to get one of these brand new. Unless Scott Carson decides to do a second run. Which even if he does, they are very hard to get hold of. I have literally watched one of these go on sale in the group by Skatua and be sold 2 minutes later. But there are other tanks of this type that, yes, they are not as good of quality, but they are still fairly good tanks. One of my all-time favorites. It's another one that's hard to get a hold of, but it's a little easier to get a hold of than it is this tank right here. Is a tank called the VCMT. That is actually the tank that turned me on to RTAs. It is a Velocity style build deck. It is very easy to build on. And like I said, if you look, you can find them. You know, tanks like this, like I said, I'd rather own one of these than a dozen tanks in this style. You know, buy a tank like this and compare a tank like this, and you decide. With all of that being said, I want you all to remember, smoking is dead because vaping killed it. I love each and every one of you. And I will see you all out there on those clouds, guys. Keep it cloudy, guys. Peace.